Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Ruffman. I am your host, John Ruffman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. There is so much to talk about, and I want to pick up on the fact that Jimmy Kimmel spoke to the nation last night. Oh, it's true, he's back. He's back in his perch on ABC. And the audience response last night was absolutely phenomenal. Why? Because the American people, I think left, right, and center, believe in free speech. Now, there are some who are very critical and who say, well, Jimmy Kimmel should not have been brought back on. It really is the wrong thing to do. And there were some networks that refused even to carry his program. But the simple truth is, free speech in America is under assault. Whether it is because of Jimmy Kimmel, or because of what is happening on the college campuses, or because of attitudes of the Trump administration on a whole range of issues, there is no doubt that freedom of speech as we have known it is under siege. Please note, I did not say that free speech is gone. Quite the contrary. Jimmy Kimmel's return, despite Donald Trump suggesting how upset he is about it, is a good thing. And whether you're a Trump supporter or not, if you believe in freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and if you believe that a comedy hour, well, everyone is open to ridicule, I think it's a key thing. Many years ago, I was involved in a variety show, if you will, and the host loved to imitate me. Now, I must tell you, it was a remarkable imitation. I don't think that I needed even to say a word, but I also knew that his cynical remarks and his pokes at me were based on his, attempt to get laughs. But more than that, behind what he said was a serious aspect of his art. And I think that's the key. There were many who said that Kimmel's ratings were so far down and that's why they got rid of him. And you and I know that isn't true. We know that because of the actions of the chairman of the FCC and because of the statements by the President of the United States, there was considerable pressure on the question of Jimmy Kimmel's return. And we also now know, because the President expressed his displeasure at Kimmel's return, that there is more to all of this than meets the eye. In the days ahead, the fact that free speech has been under siege and continues to be under siege, I believe will be a major issue here in American politics. But let's point out that free speech is something we treasure, we value, because it is part of who we are, enshrined in the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. But now I'd like to shift to another topic, and that is the President's remarks to the United Nations yesterday. I listened to the President's remarks with great care, and I must tell you, I was horrified. Horrified in part because it was not a speech of conciliation. It was not a speech of, let's get the United Nations back to where it ought to be, but because it was filled with anger and threats of retribution, and blatant inaccuracies. Let me give you the best example I can. The question of global warming. You heard Donald Trump say that it's all a giant hoax. And you and I know that it isn't a hoax, that it is a genuine problem. And we also know that this president, who proclaimed his delight at withdrawing from the accords in Paris, that this president is not concerned about the environment. When he talks about drill, baby drill, and deprecates wind and solar power, we know that what the president is doing will hurt our environment and ultimately hurt our world. Now, some of you will say, oh, John, poppycock, it just isn't true. But science tells me it is true. And that applies to the question of Tylenol. When the president, and we talked about this briefly yesterday, when the president suggested that Tylenol was the cause of autism, He simply seemed to fail to realize that before there was Tylenol, before it existed, there was autism. Facts matter. That's the theme I've had for the last couple of days, and I extend it to you now. This is a strange and peculiar time, a time in which the President of the United States is feared more than respected by the world, in which here in the United States there are greater divisions over Donald Trump than over virtually any single issue. The mobilization of people to oppose what Donald Trump is doing spans the spectrum left and right. And yet, the simple truth is, he will be President of the United States for more than 3 years into the future. And his potential successor, J.D. Vance, is indicating that he concurs with what this president is doing. And what that means is that for those who oppose the Trump agenda, and please note, I'm talking about the agenda. I'm not talking about the man. I have no particular feelings one way or the other about Donald Trump as a man. I've never met him. But I can tell you when it comes to his policies, whether it is dealing with global warming, dealing with freedom of speech, dealing with the United Nations, I have real problems. Are there points of agreement that I have with Donald Trump? The answer is yes. Because, well, as they say, a clock is always right twice a day. This is, to me, a very important question, particularly as we deal in the broader universe of political controversy with the question of the future of our nation. I don't want to be overly dramatic, but I do believe that Donald Trump and his policies represent an existential threat. I was asked what I thought about his comments about Ukraine, 100% reversal of where he had stood, at one point accusing Ukraine of starting the war, now saying Ukraine may get back all its territory, his personal animus toward Vladimir Putin, which seems to infect his view now of what's happening. I don't know what the resolution will be, and this morning I will listen to President Zelensky as he addresses the United Nations. But I can tell you, without any doubt, that who is President of the United States matters, that how he addresses world issues, how he addresses world leaders, how he addresses the United Nations really matters. I am thinking back to a book of Adlai Stevenson's great speeches at the UN called Looking Outward. President Kennedy wrote the introduction to the book, and basically we know that for a period of time, even as the United Nations stumbled and failed, the United States was firmly behind the UN. And I want to suggest to you today that Donald Trump's drastic budget cuts to the United Nations will affect all the world without any doubt. So this is a simple truth. The existential threat, my friends, comes from Donald Trump's own positions, his own rhetoric. And the days ahead are going to be days of testing. And I'm going to be with you right here on Around the Political World with John Rothman, talking about those tests. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which, of course, is our goal. Your feedback is appreciated on LinkedIn, Facebook, and of course through direct email. It is the link that I have with your thinking, whether we agree or disagree. It is a wonderful thing to know that you are listening and responding. And now to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Gogo, thanks so much. You're doing a great job, and I appreciate everything you do. This is John Rothman. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. See you then.